audio, and I am going to begin our Peak webinar. And first, let me say hello to everyone. My name is Eileen O'Neill, and I am the Training Manager for Peak Education and Training. I welcome you to today's webinar, Top 10 Things to Consider When Building a Dental Website. This Peak 1 Credit CE webinar is presented by Mr. Jeff Gladnick, the President and Founder of Great Dental Websites. This program was made possible through the support of Lighthouse. Thank you, Lighthouse, for your support. This program will last 1 hour, followed by 30 minutes question and answer maximum. You will be able to post questions during today's program by using the Enter Questions in the chat box on the left of your screen. Jeff Gladnick will address all questions during his Q&A session at the conclusion of today's webinar. Upon completion, all participants will receive 1 CE credit. Peak Education and Training is a nationally approved CE provider by the AGD, provider number 209195. Your CE certificate will be emailed to you from me, and my email address is eileeno'Neill@peakdental.com. Please watch for your CE certificate to arrive to you tomorrow. Technical support is not available during this webinar. Only the speaker will be heard over your audio. You can mute yourself to block out your background noise by pressing *6. You will still be able to hear the presentation. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeff Gladnick. He is the owner of GreatDentalWebsites.com, a company dedicated to producing fantastic, affordable, and effective websites just for dentists. Jeff is a software engineer with 13 years of experience. There are 6 dentists in his family, 2 of which are in his immediate family. He does a fantastic job, and he was kind enough to present this webinar for Peak Education and Training today. So without any further delay, I turn the microphone over to Jeff Gladnick.
Thanks, Eileen. As Eileen said, we're going to be talking about a lot of things that we've seen from our customers when they come to us where they were kind of led astray in the past. And I've kind of put together this information as a guideline for dentists who are looking to build or buy their first dental website. So just a little bit about me quickly. I live in Denver. As Eileen said, I have 13 years of experience in web development. I have a wife, a baby daughter, and 2 cats. And I got into dental websites because my dad at one point many years ago had gotten a quote for I think around $35,000 for a dental website. And this was like 5 or 6 years ago. And I think my exact words are, "We're not going to waste my inheritance on that." So I elected to build one for him. My uncles got wind of this and wanted one, and then they started telling friends, and then it slowly became a business. And it's what I do today. So what we're going to cover, we're going to talk about how to get a domain name, how to avoid getting ripped off, and some guidelines for picking one. Some questions that you're going to need to ask a website company you're considering hiring with, or an individual developer, about search optimization, copywriting, and some other things. Some very common scams that we see from time to time and how to spot them. We're going to talk about mobile websites, if you really need one or not, and how to work it into your site. What you should be doing after you finally launch your website. It's not over after that. It's only just beginning. But you can get your existing patients involved to help you promote this online, and I'll give you some strategies for how to accomplish that. I'll give you a couple tips for graphic design and logo development. And finally, we'll talk about how to track your return on investment so you can make sure that your dental website is actually helping your business. If anybody hasn't called in yet, the dial-in number is at the bottom. It'll be at the bottom for the next 10 slides if you're just seeing this but can't hear me. So the first thing is buying a domain name. Always try to buy it yourself if at all possible. Like I said, we've heard cases in the past from companies, where the dentist had bought a website, they'd been working with the company for 5 years, paid them thousands of dollars, and then wanted to leave for whatever reason. And the company said, "Great, would you like to buy your domain name because we own that? It'll be $10,000. We don't want you to get ripped off like that. Buy your domain name yourself, and this can never happen to you. The best possible domain name you can get is the name of the city and then the word dentist.com, because that's the most common thing people in your area will type into Google when searching for a dentist. There are lots of other similar things. You can do Dentist City, you can do The City Dentist, you can do A City Dentist, you can do Best City Dentist. Some of these might sound cheesy, but that will give you the best bang for your buck as far as Google is concerned. Also consider the resale value. If you just purchase your domain name, if you purchase drsmith.com, which I'm sure is taken, you're not going to be able to sell that to Dr. Jones if he buys your practice in 30 years. But he might be interested in citydentist.com. It's another asset for your business. And like I said, those will give you a better position on Google. A lot of dentists ask me if they need to buy multiple domains. Some dentists will go crazy and buy 30, 50, 100 domains. You don't really need these, but they can act as defensive measures against other competitors who are coming to market. If you buy all of the good domain names, you leave your competitors with bad domain names to compete with you against. And they still can do that. It'll just be more difficult. We always recommend buying the .com and the .com above the .org or .net or .biz or anything else. There's still a significant amount of people. Are you guys unable to see my screen? Oh, shoot. Why is this not sharing? Give me just a second.
Sure.
Is my screen not being shared at all?
Now it's sharing.
We see now? I'm sorry about that.
Yes. Everybody give us a yes if you can see his slides scrolling right now in your chat. Yep, there they are. We can see it now. Thank you.
We didn't have any exciting pictures yet, so we didn't miss much. But thank you for pointing that out.
You're very welcome. Did you also hit the record button? I did not remind you of that.
I did. That I remembered. But it's probably black for the first 2 minutes now. Anyway, picking up where we were. A lot of people will just type in www.whatever they're looking for.com and call it a day. They're not even aware that .org or .net exists. So try to get the .com unless really everything else is taken. Do you need to buy a .mobi to show up on mobile searches? No, you do not. .mobis are expensive. They're about 3 times the cost of other domain names. Google has stated that they will not give any advantage to .mobi domain names. So you do not need to have a .mobi to rank well on mobile devices. There are some good tools you can use for domain research, like Domainer, note that period there, or instant domain search. And I'll show you guys an example for instant domain search. If you're a dentist in Albion, Michigan, you might be interested in Albion Dentist, but somebody took it already. So you might go with the Albion Dentist or Dentist Albion. And this gives you a very quick feedback for, is this domain available? What are the options? So it's a good thing for brainstorming and coming up with ideas. We always recommend Namecheap as a registrar to buy this domain name at. Their prices are good. They don't try to upsell you on countless products you don't need, like GoDaddy is very fond of doing. And they have great features and great support. So Namecheap.com is a company that I recommend to buy the domain name from. And we just had our quick example with instant domain search. So who's going to build this thing for you? You may be considering, like my dad did at one time, your son, your nephew, or the neighbor's kid. This is probably a bad idea. In most cases, they're going to graduate and move on to getting a real job or working for another company. And if they do, your support options are going to dry up pretty quick. When you need to upgrade the website, they're going to be busy working somewhere and probably not have time for you. So make sure that's not the case if you're going to go with that option. There may be a local website development company you're familiar with. One of your patients may be a web developer. This is usually a mixed bag, we find. You got to make sure a couple things. One is, do they have prior experience with dentists? If they don't, they're going to have to try to learn that on the fly. If you're a patient and you have the time to work with them, you can teach them, but that might be more time than you're willing to put in, and that still might not give you the best results. So it's helpful if they've already had experience working with dentists. Do they have strong SEO expertise? A lot of local web developers know how to make a website, but don't know how to get it ranked highly on search engines. That takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of trial and error, and after a couple of years, they might learn, but you don't want to be the first guy that they're working with for that. So make sure they can point to a couple of local businesses, even if they're not dentists, the plumber, the florist, whoever, and show that they're ranking very highly for search terms relevant to them, florist, Albion, etc. And make sure they have good support options. If this is just, again, a single guy, they might decide to close the business, to move, to get married and get a real job, or move on to something else. And you don't want to be left out in the cold. So make sure it's at least a small group, and they're going to be able to support you for the foreseeable future. There are some do-it-yourself options. GoDaddy has a Website Tonight product that I know some dentists have used. There's also a company called Site Creator that has a website product that's easy to use. Their features are a little light, but it is easy to get a basic website off the ground. And if you do everything right, it can be okay. So these are some options to consider. And of course, there are lots of dental website companies like myself that'll want your business as well. But you need to ask for references. There are plenty of fly-by-night dental website companies that we see crop up at least, 1 or 2 a week. Ask for references. If they don't have any references, you probably don't want to work with them. That's not a good sign. Ask for examples of their work and go to the websites themselves. Don't settle for screenshots. Ask for actual URLs and verify that those dentists still work with those companies. And call the dentist and ask them for yourself, how they like the service. Ask for examples of their SEO work and test them yourself. If they tell you that they've worked with a dentist in Chicago and that dentist is ranked first and they're doing great and getting all this business, go search for Chicago dentist and see what comes up, or dentist Chicago. If they're not coming up for any of those keyword terms, then you may be being misled. Excuse me. Moving on. The copywriting. You need to make sure that the content is going to be unique. If the content is written over and over again for one dentist after another, like we see very commonly, here's a quick example of this. This is a customer that just came to us in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I think this got a little messed up there. There you go. But this is the page about dental bonding. Let's expand this. So at first glance, this copy looks okay, but if you run it through Copyscape, we can see the exact same text on another dental website, who knows where. This is the exact same text, just copied verbatim, and this will not help you with search engines at all. Google wants to show unique and compelling content to the users. It does not want to show the same content that was used on thousands of other dental websites over and over again, or worse, copied directly from Wikipedia. Don't fall for this. Make sure you ask, will it be unique, and make sure you check it in Copyscape. You also want to know who's going to be writing the content. Do they have experience writing for dentists? Is English their native language? Do they have an educational background in English or communications or marketing or something like that? This is probably important to know. And also, do they have SEO experience? There's a little bit of an art to writing copy in a way that impresses both Google and patients. You can slap in lots and lots of keywords, and you've probably seen this. The copy reads very awkwardly, and you wonder why these bold linked text that keep saying, Albion Dentist is all over the page. You don't want to overdo it, but you do want to have just enough in there so it's not obnoxious to the patient, but it impresses Google at the same time. Search engine optimization. You want to know how the process is going to work. The way it should work is the dentist should tell you they're going to claim all of your local properties on Google. They're going to register you with Google Webmaster Tools. They're going to do the same thing with Bing. They're going to optimize your local places listing on Google. They should not tell you they're going to buy thousands and thousands of backlinks to your website, because this is all going to be sent to a company in India who's going to spam blogs, and it's going to work against you in the worst case. In the best case, it'll do nothing. Google's caught on to this. If it was just that easy, everybody would be doing it. But you can detect this kind of stuff by setting up a Google alert. So you can go in here and type in Dr. Gladnick. You can put in your email address, jeff@greatdentalwebsites.com. Make sure everybody can see this. And if Dr. Gladnick is mentioned on the web, it'll email you. You can do a little bit of do-it-yourself reputation monitoring too. So if there's a negative or a positive review, you can be aware of it, or you can thank the patient if it was positive. Again, unique content is paramount. If they're not going to be writing unique content for you in the copywriting phase, then the search engine optimization process is already starting at a huge disadvantage. It's very difficult to get plagiarized, or not plagiarized content, but duplicate content to rank well. So make sure that you're starting with great content. Graphic design. Make sure that it's easy to change your graphic design in the future. If your website becomes a little outdated, or you don't like the colors and you change your branding, you don't want to have to redo the entire website. What they should tell you is that's no problem. We can just switch the template or the theme that we did for your website. There seems to be a negative connotation among dentists about templated websites, and I think this is a bit of a misunderstanding. A lot of companies that have template websites also use canned content, that duplicated text. that I just showed you from another customer, that is very bad, the canned content, and that won't help you with search engines. But the templates is just a way to kind of skin websites like putting on a different set of clothes. That's the foundation for all modern content management systems and all modern web applications. There's nothing wrong with templates and themes, but as long as the content on them is unique. So templates good, canned content very, very bad. I hope that makes sense. Custom designs and logos. Try to get these if possible so you stand out from the crowd, but make sure that if you're paying for it, it's not going to be used by another dentist. If you're paying for custom work, don't get mass-produced results. One thing you can do is use 99designs.com for your logo. And this is actually a pretty cool site. There's other competitors to it like CrowdSpring, but this is a dentist, I'm not sure where, but for $217, they got 110 entries for their web design or their logo design, and that was the end result. And here's a couple of these down below. There are 100 more like it, but you don't even have to pay for it if you're not happy with it. It's a good option to consider. You basically just set up a contest for your logo. We've had several customers use this and reported great things. I'd recommend you consider this too. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back to your local designer and start over, and it won't cost you anything, at least not with 99 Designs. Check the policies for other similar crowdsourced design websites. So because mobile is becoming more and more important, you want to avoid Flash of any sort. If you have a website that is 100% in Flash, it probably needs to be thrown out and started from scratch. It's not going to work on an iPhone, it's not going to work on an iPad, and it won't work on Android devices. So you're either going to need to build dedicated mobile websites for that platform or start over, and you probably want to do that. So ask for samples of mobile websites that the companies have produced and test them yourself on an iPhone, on an iPad, on Android. Use your wife, use your kids, use your patients or your hygienist if you have to, but try on a couple different devices to make sure they look good. You want to know what kind of platform the website's being done in. This is the technology that's running your website, and it does matter. In the old days, people would use plain HTML, and some people still use this. There's nothing wrong with this, but it's going to be more expensive and more difficult to maintain. And it's going to be extremely difficult for you if you're a novice to go in and make changes. If you want to add a new before and after gallery item or change a staff bio, this may be very difficult for you if you're not familiar with using FTP and HTML editors and stuff like that. If those words are foreign to you, steer clear of this. We see a lot of dentists choosing WordPress or open source content management systems. That's what a CMS is for their dental websites. These are very general pieces of software used to build a variety of different websites, your plumber, your architect, or your dentist. And there's nothing wrong with these. They're good options. They're free. Make sure that they're kept up to date if you go with this option. Someone is going to have to log in periodically and update all of the plugins you've used and update the content management system itself. If it gets too out of date, occasionally security holes can open up and you can get hacked. We've seen that happen. That's bad, and then your website is redirecting everyone to buy Viagra or something worse. So if you go with this option, make sure you have somebody who's going to be maintaining this, who's going to be keeping it up to date. But it will allow you to have a little bit more ease of use for making changes. The other option is a custom CMS or a platform, and this is the option we do, and several of our competitors do. The way this works is it typically is a content management system set up specifically for dental websites. It'll be easier to make changes, generally speaking, than WordPress and definitely the HTML. But the disadvantage is you're kind of locked in a little bit. With WordPress or an open source content management system, you can just zip everything up if you're unhappy with where you are, upload it somewhere to another company, and just fire it off and away you go. With a custom CMS, you're going to have to migrate all of the content, which doesn't take a long time. It usually takes a couple hours. We charge a flat fee of $250 when we migrate other sites into our platform. And I expect our competitors would do something similar. So there may be, there's a little bit of a trade-off for that ease of use. But the advantage is you don't have to worry about upgrading it. You don't have to worry about security as long as the company is worrying about it. And it'll be easy to play with, and new features are usually just added for you. With WordPress, you have to take a little bit more of an ownership role, but you have more flexibility. So it just depends on what way you want to go. Do you have more time and you really want to buckle down and get very much involved in the website, or do you want to focus more on dentistry? So ask how the upgrades will be done. Are you going to have to pay for them? Do they add upgrades automatically each month for all their customers? If Google changes its algorithm, how is your site going to be updated to compensate? Are you going to be charged for that? And how will the process work? These are questions you need to ask website companies before you buy. So a lot of common scams. We talked about the hijacked domain names. You've been with a company for 5 years. You didn't buy the domain name. They bought it for you. And now you want to leave and they want 10 grand for your domain name back. Don't get in the situation, as I said, buy the domain name on your own. Plagiarism. Use Copyscape to detect plagiarism. It's very easy. Just put your website or specific web pages, check services, check FAQs, check patient education, snippets that a company has written for you, check them through Copyscape, and make sure that they come up negative. You don't want to see your content somewhere else, and ask them what happened. We had one case where we caught a copywriter we hired who had copied content. They didn't really have an excuse, and we had to let them go. But that kind of thing should be caught internally. If it makes it to you for review, you need to ask some serious questions. Another thing, paid ads being sold as SEO. A lot of companies will tell you they're doing search engine optimization, but what they're really doing is just buying traffic through Google AdWords and other pay-per-click systems. There's nothing really wrong with pay-per-click ads, but you got to know what you're paying for, because as soon as you stop paying them, they'll shut it off and your traffic will go to zero. A normal SEO campaign will give you like a lasting presence, so you come up naturally for searches for dentists in your area for a long time. That may start to fade away if you don't do anything and your competitors are all throwing money at this and building their own websites, but it should take a while. Paid ads will disappear. The traffic will disappear from them as soon as you stop paying for them. So make sure they're not doing paid ads and telling you it's search engine optimization. And then, of course, crappy link building. Companies that will build thousands and thousands of links back to your website. These are useless. Google's aware of it. If it sounds too good to be true and too easy, it probably is. You want quality links from local companies that are related to you and preferably related to dentistry, and I'll talk about that a little later. You're also going to get some random unsolicited offers that are going to come up from time to time. You may be already getting them. And this is one that was sent to one of our customers via their website, and this is what it looks like. It's from carterjennifer77@gmail.com. Doesn't sound like a business. The capitalization is a little funky. The name is even stranger. And it's coming from a Gmail address when it has a business associated with it that's a .org. This should be a red flag for you. The weird name, the weird capitalization, and the Gmail address when a proper company name would be more appropriate should all tell you that this is probably a scam. And of course, this message is very generic. It has nothing to do with your company. They probably didn't bother to do any research about you, and they just sent this to thousands and thousands of people. So I'll just delete things like this. So talking about mobile websites, we typically see about 20 to 25% of the traffic to our customers' websites coming from mobile devices. And at first that was pretty surprising, but it keeps rising and rising each year. We have some customers that are already above 30. So what's wrong with using your existing website for mobile users? Maybe nothing, but you need to go check. You need to bring up your website on an iPad. You need to bring up your website on an iPhone and on an Android device, maybe even a BlackBerry if you're in New York and people are still hanging on to those. And you need to make sure that your website looks good and it's very usable. One thing that's very common is the phone number is not clickable with a thumb. You need to have that. It's going to be very difficult for a person trying to call you to switch back, remember the number, switch back, enter the last 4 digits in. Just make it a little click to call thing. And I'll show you an example of how this can work. On the left, you can see a dental website not rendering very well on a mobile device. This is one of the mobile websites we produced for my dad. You can see there's a big phone number at the top that you can just click on with your thumb and you're connected right away. Here's his website when you've overridden it and switched to the normal site. It's not quite the same experience. It's still usable, but you have to scroll around, you have to pinch it to get it all on the same screen, and that may affect the size of the text. So make sure the font is easy to read, make sure it's easy to navigate, make sure you can click the phone number with your thumb and call the front desk immediately. As I said, you do not need to buy a .mobi domain. The only exception to that is if you have a very strong branded name that's well known and you want to protect that brand from a competitor who's going to buy the .mobi domain, then I can see the logic in that. Signs that you really need a mobile website, any kind of flash on the website at all. If you do your own testing on mobile devices and your website is very slow, mobile users suffer from the same thing that desktop users have, and if your website comes up slow on a desktop and slow on a mobile device, in both cases they're going to leave and abandon you and go on to the next one. Make sure you can easily read the text and it's not micro small on mobile devices. Because it is on a small screen, you want the font to be a little bigger. The best practice, according to Google, is what's known as a responsive design. You might want to write that down because that's the magic word a web development company should tell you when you ask them about their mobile websites. Do you use a responsive design? Yes, that is the answer you want to hear. What that means is when you go to the website, albiondentist.com or whatever, if you're on a mobile device, it'll show you the mobile site. If you're on a PC, it'll show you the PC site, and it'll be on the same domain. It will not forward you to another website. That's the way Google recommends you do it. And of course, I can't stress this enough, no flash. So you've launched your website. Congratulations, but now what? The first thing we recommend customers do is to come up with a coherent online review strategy. And one thing you can do, you need to identify sites that your patients are using to look up reviews for local businesses. Hopefully they're not looking for other dentists, but you ask your patients, where do you go to find a plumber? Where do you go to look up restaurants? Where do you go to find, a florist or other local businesses? They'll probably say things like Google Places or Google Plus, Yelp, City Search, but ask your patients, there may be more or local ones in your area. If you email me, and I'll have my email address at the end of this presentation, I'll send you a template that we send to our customers that they send to their patients that outlines all the different review sites that they'd like them to leave reviews for. But it's important that you develop a process. And a typical process can be, a patient leaves, they have a positive experience, and your front desk sends a personalized email following up with them and asking them to leave a review at the bottom. There are automated solutions for this, like the sponsor of this webinar, Lighthouse 360. Lighthouse has an automated email reminder that will go out to patients after they come in for a consultation, and it'll ask them to leave a review automatically. And they can also detect if the person is a @gmail.com user, if that's their email address, it'll automatically ask them to go to Google Places and Google Plus. That's very valuable because Google will filter out people who are non-Google users. They're very stingy with the reviews. Only sending Gmail users there will reduce the frustration from users. Why isn't my review appearing? And make it more likely to appear. So that's something to consider if you want to automate this process. Video testimonials are another thing that you can do. And they don't have to be professionally done. But they do need to be in an area where it's well lit. Excuse me. You want to have them well lit, and you want to have them quiet, and you want to have the camera on a tripod or some kind of sturdy object, if possible, instead of your hands. You don't want it to be shaking. But don't ask any questions. Just let the patient talk and aim for about 30 to 60 seconds. And when you upload it to YouTube, and we do recommend you use YouTube, use the right keywords. If the person is talking about their dentures and you're in Fort Collins, then call it Fort Collins Dentures Patient Testimonial. Here's a quick example of how this works. Here's a search for Fort Collins Dentures. I should probably spell it right. And if we scroll down, we see a YouTube video appearing. This belongs to Dr. McCall, who also coincidentally comes up first. So Dr. McCall has two chances here to get you to click on a piece of property that he owns and eventually give him a call. So use the right keywords. Set yourself a goal to get a testimonial for every type of service you offer. So you could do Fort Collins Invisalign, Fort Collins Dentures, Fort Collins Dental Implants, Fort Collins Crowns. You get the idea. This might take some time, but you have all the time in the world. Just set yourself a goal to get it done gradually. So also try to add at least one piece of content to your website each month. And this doesn't have to be tons and tons of work. You can just do a before and after gallery case where you show off your latest work. You can show off a new video testimonial you've posted. You can add a new frequently asked question, and this is something your front desk can help with. Ask them to start keeping a log of questions they get from patients, and you should do the same. And ones that keep coming up are make good candidates for frequently asked questions. If your patients are asking you or your front desk, they're also asking Google. And if you write frequently asked questions in the right way, they will appear on Google and patients will find your website. They're not all going to come in through the front door. They'll come in through random ways. So off the website, blog posts. You can create an external blog on Blogger or WordPress.com and write posts about dental implants and link it back to your dental implant page. Every time you write a blog post, it should be about a specific service you do instead of just, your latest political feelings or cool things you bought at Costco. That's fine, but the purpose of the blog post should be to promote your services, and you should always link once near the top of the blog post to a specific page on your site. But this is something that blogging is something I recommend you do after you already have a fully filled out website. This should be a second priority. You can try to join Facebook groups. My wife belongs to several mom groups. These are all good candidates for finding new patients. Everybody knows the mom is the key to bringing the whole family in. So these are good targets. There's also a website called Help a Reporter Out. If you log in and sign up for this, you'll be contacted by reporters, if you're lucky, who are looking for quotes from dentists for a story. Maybe you'll even get a call from the New York Times. They do stories on dentists, and they'll always feature a quote from a dentist. This could be you. So roll the dice, sign up for Help a Reporter Out, and maybe you'll get lucky. So another thing you can do is getting backlinks to your website and doing it the right way. We already talked about the bad way, which is paying some offshore company, X number of dollars to make thousands of backlinks to your site. Google will not count these. It's too smart for that. This used to work in the past. It does not work anymore. If companies are still trying to sell you this, it's not going to work. What you do want to do is quality links that are local to you. So any specialists you refer to, pediatric doctors or just general practitioners as well. If they have websites, ask them to link back to you. You're already sending them patients. The least they can do is give you a link back to your website from theirs. Local dental suppliers, your lab, for example, local businesses owned by your patients that have websites. And you can offer to link to each other's websites. And this is the way we ideally like to see a link constructed. I can email you this snippet if you like, but basically we have the link to the website. You give it a title that talks about what it is, a dentist in Winton, Delaware, and then we have the main keyword term that this particular customer is going for, Wilmington Cosmetic Dentist, and then the dentist name. That's roughly the format that you want to use. If you're already coming up first for that, you can start to mix it up and go for specific services like Invisalign or dental implants or whatever your heart desires. So how can you track your return on investment? There's a couple different ways to do this. I think did I go too far? No. So there are companies that will provide you with tracking numbers like CallRail or hosted numbers. And the way this works, and I'll show you a quick example of this. This is a customer of ours in Rain, Louisiana. And if they come from a Google ad, we can put a phone number right here. So this is the link that the person actually clicks on the ad. And what they see is a different phone number here. And no matter where they go on the site, they're going to keep seeing this phone number. Other companies do it in a similar fashion. And this number 123 dentist, it's a fake number, but you get the idea, would just be forwarded to their main office line. And that way, every time they got a call, they would get a report that said somebody else called the number. Here was the number. Here's how long it was. And then that way they can run reports and figure out how many calls they got from their ad campaign, their billboard, whatever. So that makes it very easy to do ROI calculations. There is one downside to this. If you make that the default number on your website and it's not done in a certain way, it can confuse Google's local search. Google's local search checks the phone number as well as your address and some other things to make sure that your website is the same record they have for their local search. So be careful about using a local call tracking number by default, but it works perfectly for different advertising, things like pay-per-click or print ads or stuff like that. It's not bulletproof. It tends to underestimate the calls by a little bit, but it will give you an idea of what's going on. The other thing you can do, you can, like I said, you could use different domain names. If you've bought up a bunch of domain names and they're just sitting there, you can use call tracking numbers in conjunction with these for offline advertising. So if you do print ads, if you do a church bulletin, if you advertise in billboards or radio or direct mail or anything else, give a different domain for each one and then use a corresponding tracking number in your ad. And each time somebody clicks on the different domain, it'll just be forwarded off to your main website, but instead of showing your main number, a tracking number will appear, and then you'll know that the church bulletin is producing, 2 patients a month for you, or the billboard is producing none. You'll get that information very quickly. I think I missed a slide. There was one thing about the front desk that I must have lost, but your front desk can help with this a lot. Your front desk should be asking the patient how they heard about you. Did they visit the website? What compelled them to call on the website? Was there anything in particular? Did they read your bio? Did they find out you offered a service no one else did? This is valuable information for your web developer. And the other thing is, if they used a search engine, ask the front desk to ask them what they put into Google if they can remember. It may be something weird that might surprise you. If you compile all this information and send it to your web developer, they will thank you. And it'll help make their job a bit easier. I think I spoke a little too quickly because we're coming to the end of this. But there's one more resource that I'd encourage you to visit. Our YouTube channel has a lot of reviews that we've done for other dentists who had websites and wanted a critique. You can go into these. They're all 5 to 10 minutes long, and basically we just go in and outline everything they've done wrong or everything they're doing right, and how it can be improved or fixed if it needs it. This is a YouTube/Great Dental Websites. That's an easy thing to check out. At this point, I can turn it over for questions. If anybody has any, you can start asking them in the chat.
I have a question for the attendees. This is Eileen from Peak. How many of you, or the question is, do you already have a dental website? If you do, please chat yes.
Yes, Eileen. I'll provide I'll send out an email to everyone and give a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. So Jay Marks wanted to know if we offer all the services we mentioned. We do. You can call us at 415-814-0078 or just visit greatdentalwebsites.com to get in touch with us. Deandra had asked, I have a very generic, not well put together website of my office. We'd have to take a look. If you're bold, you can offer it us now and we'll take a peek live here. Otherwise, send me an email afterwards, and I can put together a video like I showed you guys here, and we'll kind of go through and review everything that's going right, everything that's going wrong, everything that can be improved. What other questions do we have? Well, Deandra, if you send me a link to the website offline, I'd be happy to take a look at it and give you a quick video review, or just chat with you on the phone or via email and give you my feedback. No problem. Any other questions about anything we talked about? We can talk about social media. We can talk about blogging. We can talk more about search engine optimization. Anything you guys like? Michelle said she had a website but had been looking to upgrade to a content management system like WordPress. Yeah, I would highly recommend that you switch to a content management system that allow you to update the website. Is keeping the SEO after switching. So whenever you switch websites, usually the paths will change. So I can show you guys a quick example of this. Like this is the URL for the patient education thing about dental bonding. And this does not have a good ranking because it's duplicate content, but let's say it was coming up first for dental bonding in Rehoboth Beach. What your web developer needs to do is set up 301 redirects. That's the magic word, 301 redirects. And what that does is tells Google, this was the old site, or this was the old location of dental bonding, and the new location might be something like this, dental bonding. So all the traffic that was previously headed to those old links will be passed along seamlessly to your new site. If you set that up for every single web page you have on your site, you'll have no SEO problems. There's also some things you can do inside of Google Webmaster where you inform them that you're changing domains or changing site structure, and here's the new site structure. Make sure your web developer has access to your Google Webmaster account, so Google's kept in the loop for any changes you make. So that, if you follow those guidelines, that should preserve any kind of SEO ranking you have. How can we know if our current website uses Flash? Let's see if I can find an example here. If I can, come on. Whoops. Ohio. I can't find it. There's a website that we just looked at the other day. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick in my email. Let's see if I can find a quick example for you guys. 10 best Flash websites. So let's hope this is still using Flash. Let's try this one. Okay, good. So if you right-click, if you see, first of all, whenever you see moving stuff like this in animations, and it looks a little flashy, that's a hint that it's in Flash. But if you right-click on it, it'll tell you, you'll see this About Adobe Flash Player at the bottom. That's the dead giveaway. This entire site is Flash-based. So it will have problems ranking parts of the site for search engine optimization. Or it shouldn't, it's not impossible, but it's a strong disadvantage. So we recommend you avoid it. What is your opinion about working with older browsers? Well, let's take a look at some stats. Let's go into Google Analytics, and we'll see what browsers people are actually using. Let me bring this over in just a second once I get logged in. And we'll take my dad's website as an example since he's the guinea pig. So let's see what kind of browsers people are actually using. So Internet Explorer, you can see, is 25%. Where is the version for this? So, and here, and you can kind of see that 8, 9, and 7 in that order were used. So do you have to support Internet Explorer 6 anymore? Probably not. There wasn't a single visitor. Firefox, you know, 13. Is there anything less than 10? And even older versions of Firefox are usually pretty compliant. Internet Explorer is the big one, but finally, and this has been the bane of web developers like myself for many years, Internet Explorer 6 is kind of fallen out of vogue, and hardly anybody uses it anymore. And it's encouraging to see stats like this because now you just don't need to support it anymore. So IE7, I would say, as a minimum. You might be able to get away with IE8. But anything that a competent web developer makes, if they're using new technologies like HTML5, it should fail over if it's done properly, and it just might not have the rounded corners. They might be square corners, or it might not have a gradient. It'll just be a flat color, or it might not have an animation. It'll just be static. So ask those kinds of questions like, is this going to work on older browsers? Can you show me what it'll look like in an older browser? And most web developers will have some sort of simulator like we use to test things on older browsers. Any hints on getting Google reviews posted? It is very hard these days, from Jay Marks. It is. Pick your battles, I would recommend. Try to only ask people who have Gmail addresses to leave a review. If they have a Google Plus account already, that's helpful. Google basically is responding to a lot of fraud from people, paying companies in India or elsewhere thousands of dollars to get lots of fake reviews to their website, and they called on to this. I think the New York Times had an article that stated almost a third of all online reviews were fake. So you have to pick your battles and keep trying. It is going to be frustrating when your reviews don't appear, but make it clear to your patients that their review may not appear or it may be delayed. Usually they're suppressed. So what Google ideally wants is a Google user who's registered their Google Plus account, so they know who they are. They've registered their Gmail address via a mobile phone, so it's tied to something real. And if you have users like this that have already left reviews for other businesses in your area and Google's built up a profile on them, they're more likely to get through. But even then, they may get flagged for whatever reason. Google refuses to release why they filter certain reviews, because that will tip off the spammers, and to a certain extent that's true. So don't get discouraged, just keep at it, and maybe only half of your reviews will get through, maybe worse. But if you have a process in place, or if you have something automated like Lighthouse, eventually they will get through and your ratings will start to bump up. Michelle wanted to know, in regards to Jay's question, we recommend having a computer available for patients using the office. Google stated that that's okay. Whether or not that ranks poorly in their filter system is a different matter. But they have stated publicly they have nothing against review stations. Ideally, if somebody has an Android phone, have them leave it on that, because Google has their account information through their mobile provider. That's going to be a more legitimate review. Just think about it if you're the engineer in Google's shoes and you're trying to figure out who's a scammer and who's real. If somebody comes with an Android phone, you're going to know where they are based on their GPS coordinates. So they at least visited the physical location. And you're going to know that this is probably a real person because they had to register through their carrier. So that's a better option than having a review station. Is Android phone better than iPhone? That I don't know. I mean, Google would know that if it's an Android phone, that they probably would have more information than through Apple. I don't think there's anything besides that inherently better. I know for a fact that people who leave reviews on iPhones get through. I think it has more to do with Google's built-up profile of the user, rather, over the years. So if this person's been using Gmail for 5 years, if they've already left reviews for their businesses, if they have many years of Google web history that the person has typed in, then this is going to be a credible user that Google can trust, versus a brand new person that just signed up for a Google account just so they could leave a review for your practice. That's very suspicious. Even if the person is completely real, from Google's perspective, this is suspicious. So I missed Eileen's question. How much should a practice expect to pay for web design? I mean, this is very subjective. It's asking kind of like, how much should I pay for art? We charge about $1,000 for a custom web design. Copywriting varies. It usually is between $1,000 and $2,000. This is what we charge for copywriting for a full dental website, depending on how much content you have. It's very expensive because we hire only copywriters with master's degrees who have experience with dentists. And by design, do I mean design development? Yes. If you pay, but we have a platform, so the legwork of setting up the infrastructure is a little cheaper for us. You may have higher costs if you're doing something completely from scratch or using a content management system that has to be set up for a dentist. But you might find someone who is lower priced and can do it for you for a cheaper price. But I mean, I hear, you know, design cost being $2,500. You know, if there's someone who's very talented, whose work you love, expect to pay for quality. But the best way to gauge this is just ask for samples. And if you like the kind of stuff that designer or that company is producing, then you should, and you like their price, then it's probably a good deal for you. The search engine optimization is really, that varies a lot. As you can imagine, to get to the first page for Dentist New York City is incredibly expensive than Dentist Albion, Michigan, or a much smaller space. So that can run from, you know, just maybe $1,000 or $2,000 to over $10,000 a month if you're in a hyper-competitive area like New York City, and you might not even be on the first page for $10,000 a month in New York. So you're going to get a lot of quotes. The best way, and the prices are going to be all over the place. The best way I would recommend to evaluate companies that are selling you SEO services is based on their results, you know, and compared to their prices. Find a city. If your city is 50,000 people, ask them for a couple examples of their clients who are in cities around 50,000 people, and you would expect to have a similar amount of competition among dentists in that area. And ask them how much it's going to cost to get you to the first page. It's almost impossible for companies to guarantee this. Be careful if they guarantee it, because you cannot guarantee something you can't completely control with Google. We can tell our customers that, look, we've done this many times in areas twice as competitive as yours, and these are the results we got. We expect the same thing to happen, but you can't 100% guarantee it because you can't force Google to do what you want. So the best way to, I got off track there, but the best way to evaluate SEO companies based on their prior experience, ask them how much it's going to cost, ask them for similar examples of their work in demographics that are as close to yours as possible. If they can rank a site well in an area that's 50,000 people, and call the dentist and ask them what they did for them. But if they can do it for them, they can probably do it for you. And Michelle, did I answer your question about design and development? Okay, good. Any other questions for me about anything else? Search engine optimization. I could talk more about that. We didn't touch much on social networking. I could discuss that a little bit. We could talk more about domain name purchasing or things like that. Any other questions?
Seth, I'm going to go ahead and close in a minute or two if we don't get questions. So if you could pass the mic over to me at that point.
SEO tips. I can show you guys very quickly how to tell if search engine optimization was done. I can give you a quick litmus test. So this is a customer that came to us that was dissatisfied. Let's bring this up to full screen. And the easy way to do it is to view the key, the source code. And what you're looking for is two things: the title and the description tag. Can everybody read that? I can make it a little bigger. So the title tag, Rehoboth Beach Dental. That's not very ideal. This should be about 70 characters, and it should have the primary keyword term. So in this case, Rehoboth Beach Dentist should be in there. Rehoboth Beach Dental is the name of the practice. That's not bad, but there's still a lot of real estate that we're not over here, that we know, another 30 or 40 characters we're not taking advantage of. So they could say Rehoboth Beach Dental, you know, dentists in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, cosmetic dentists in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, something like that. So we're underutilizing this very important title tag. The second thing is the description. This description is useless. It's got errors in it. We have these double quotes, and then it just says blog name equals, it looks like it was computer generated and it didn't work. That's not good at all. Instead, what we want is, that's Denver, Colorado. I can show you exactly how this works out. So, where are the ads here? Let's find a legitimate dentist. So here's, so this is the title tag. So this guy's title tag is appearing like this. This is the first line on Google search results, and this is the description tag down below. So you want these things to have the right keywords in it, and yes, this is the meta tag description, Jay. This right here is what Google is pulling, or what it will try to pull from your meta description. So these should have keywords in it, and this guy does. Denver, Colorado, dental. I'd like to see dentist in here, but not bad. And this one is properly done. Denver dentist, white smiles, family, dentistry. Perfect. So that's the kind of things you should expect to see. Not, this is not bad, but it could be longer, and this is useless and has errors. So spot check these kinds of things. If somebody tells you they did SEO, and you see problems like this, they didn't do SEO. This is what's called on-page optimization. Every single, let me enlarge this a little more. That's big. Can everybody read this now? The title and the description. This is what's called online optimization, and you need to have a unique title tag and a unique description for every single page. That's the hard work that's required for search engine optimization, but it must be done, or the pages that don't have it will not rank well, or they'll be at a disadvantage. The keywords tag is empty, and this is okay. This doesn't matter. Google completely ignores this. However, if you spam it and you just put in Rehoboth Beach Dentist 100 times, that can penalize you. So just leave keywords out. Your web developer shouldn't be bothering with this anyway. Eileen asked another question. How quickly will we see SEO improvements? It depends on how competitive the area is, but as a rule, new websites take usually at least 3 months before they get any traction with Google. So when you launch a brand new website, if you already have an existing website and you switch over, it might be as little as a couple weeks. But usually we'll manage clients' expectations and tell them, expect it to take at least 3 months, because that's the most common occurrence. Sometimes it can take as long as 6 months, and we typically still see improvements over the course of a year before it plateaus. And hopefully by that time, we're in the top 1, 2, 3 spaces, and they're getting lots of traffic and lots of patients. So generally speaking, 3 to 6 months, and it will continue to improve over the course of a year. I hope that answers the question. Can you show an example of good meta title tag? Sure. Let's just go back to this guy here, who's coming up relatively high for Denver dentist. Let's view his page source. Oh, that's making it smaller. So here's his title tag, Denver dentist. This has the keyword term that someone would search for his homepage. They're looking for a dentist in Denver. And here's the description. This is actually a little too long. A lot of this is getting cut off, and I think we saw that. We saw the ... Denver dentist. Where is he? Yeah, you can see this ... here. It's getting cut off because he went a little overboard. But at least he has the word dentistry, Denver, Colorado, top dentist in here. He just needs to shorten this, and this will be good. The keywords, they can lose that stuff, but overall, this is pretty good. So SEO consulting is a separate service. We typically recommend it for all of our customers. In rare occurrences, they're in an area where they're literally the only dentist in town. We had a new customer from Troop, Texas, who he was buying the only practice in town, and that's all there is. So he wins by default just for having a website. That's not normally the case. There's usually at least a little competition. And even if you're in that kind of situation, we have another customer in Northeast Maryland that got, I think, 205 patients via his website last year alone. And he's drawing from outside of his town as well, and he has had SEO done. So even if you're in a small town, if there are other towns, feeding into you, you can draw from them as well. So it's important to get SEO if you want to attract patients from those other towns. SEO is typically an additional charge beyond the copywriting and the design. And again, it varies from place to place. It can be very cheap if you're in an area where there's no competition, or it can be incredibly expensive if you're trying to compete for the top spot in New York City. let's get back to our slide here. Any other questions for me?
Well, I think we are finished here, Jeff. Are you ready for me to close?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wonderful. Those were all great questions, and thank you, Jeff, very much. It was a great webinar. You can tell that your presentation definitely communicates your expertise in building great dental websites, and I thank you for that and for your time and energy put into all your slides and your experience that you were able to show by sharing your screens of all the different examples and answers that you gave to each question. I hope that everyone enjoyed the webinar today and learned a lot. I want to make sure that we give recognition again to Lighthouse 360. You can see on your screen their logo that is there and their website as well at lpmg360.com. And we thank you for helping make this webinar possible. Lighthouse 360 is the most automated, most comprehensive patient communication system in dentistry. They are the only system that can reach 100% of your patients with email, text messages, automated phone calls, and for your technologically challenged patients, postcards and letters. So thank you again to Lighthouse. And again, if you need to reach me, Eileen O'Neill at Peak Education, the best way is by my email address. And I don't see it on our screen here. Our website for our class listings for future programs is www.peakce.com. You will receive your CE certificate by email, and my email is eileeno'Neill@peakdental.com. So if you, for some reason, want to hear this message again, Jeff is presenting this evening at 5:30 Eastern Time, and I would be happy to have you receive that join link if you wanted to hear the information and absorb it a little more deeply, or have the opportunity to ask him additional questions that you may not have thought about. Feel free to refer other people for this evening's program if you feel that they can benefit or other staff members at your office can benefit. And for that, we thank you for attending our webinar on behalf of Great Dental Websites and Peak Education and Training and Lighthouse 360. Thank you for your time, and have a great afternoon.